So everybody took care of this. You should have gotten your portfolios back. A lot of students, today's sort of the day when y'all look back and you go, this really wasn't that bad in retrospect.
Yeah.
No, if you do what the teacher suggested you do, or if you do everything, are you saying you know, like I did, wasn't?
Or if you're really good at doing everything last minute.
Right, which some people really genuinely did.
That's how I am.
Which only speaks to the fact that it's not that overwhelming. Or maybe you just tapped into that charisma that we've always known.
I don't do anything good until the last minute. Like I got all this done in 5 hours.
Like Mr. A said, the goal is the ultimate motivator. Yeah. Or the deadline is the ultimate motivator.
Yeah.
Right.
Deadline.
So if you have questions or concerns about your scores, feel free to ask me about them. But guys, and y'all are the ones, y'all know this best, I'm not going to entertain a whole lot of yans about 1 point if you got a 99. Okay? I don't have to, ain't nobody got time for that. Okay? So I'm not really going to entertain a tremendous amount of that. So any questions about your portfolio or those scores? Okay, so you can put those aside. You should have Hamlet out. You should have those charts out. Yeah, we're going to go over them in just a second. As a reminder, that chart is due by the end of class, Acts 1 and 2. So you can add to it through our discussion, but that's sort of your exit card. That's your assessment for today that's due, okay? I also want you to understand the score change for the multiple choice practice test. Yes, it is. But I wanted to show you why that happened. So y'all were here when Thomas suggested sort of changing the way that we're evaluated. So he decided, and we kind of got together on that chart and said, you know, why not make this more valuable instead of it being a C or a D? If this is a score that could get you a 5 on the AP exam, why not make that an A? So I wanted to show you the chart that I adapted from Thomas's suggestion. Okay? And it's 3 elements. You have on the left side the raw score, thank you Connor, of what you got out of 55 correct on the practice test. And the middle is what I decided that percentage value would be. And then on the right is the score that turned into in JPAMS out of 50. Okay? So then I highlighted some of the marks, like a 35 is a 95. A 30 is a 90. So that's still an A. This was just a really big window, so I tried to make it, I tried to kind of shrink it down a little bit. 20 is worth 80%, 10 is worth 70, and 5 is worth 65. So you could have gotten literally just 10 correct and still not completely bombed it. Okay, because technically a lot of that is compensated with the writing section. Does that make sense? So who do you have to thank for that? Thomas. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, that helped out our scores tremendously. Any questions about this before I turn it off?
You still did it out of 50?
I still scored it out of 50. So if you want to do the rationale. What? For the raw one?
Yeah.
Right. The score is out of, right.
The score is what we got, not the percentage.
Right. Yes. But I still tried to do it to benefit you. Okay. So those rationales, you'll get a half a point for each one you did correctly, so you could still earn full credit. Does that help? Okay. All right. Connor, you can turn lights back on. Now, as a reminder, I'm going to remind you of what we talked about the other day as far as how I want today's class to look. John, I know you're doing that chart, but pay attention. When we get into a circle, not yet, not right now, but when we get into a circle, instead of going around in a circle with the characterization, and this has worked wonders with previous classes. Right, the web thing. So it's not, it's sort of like pop reading, but it's pop characterization. So one person will start and they say, oh, that affects me. I've been writing down characters' names who come up. So for example, Polonius will talk about something and say, well, I think that affects Ophelia because da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm writing them down. They're calling you out. If you at any point hear your character's name mentioned, what does that then obligate you to do?
Speak up.
To speak up, okay? You've got to throw in your oar. So, yes ma'am.
What if we have I have Claudius innocent, so they're going to talk about him as like an evil person.
So then what do you have to do? Argue against them.
So, okay. I thought
Try
you were trying to make a connection with them.
Well, you are, but that's okay to jump in and disagree and say, what if he's actually
But what if we like think he's evil?
I know, that's the trick.
So we just have to like argue that he's
Precisely.
this person.
Because what I'm hoping you notice, and Thomas has brought this up before, if you can know both sides of that argument, you can write a better paper. So it's probably a good thing that you think he's evil, but you're going to argue innocent. Yes?
What if for like Fortinbras, he isn't even mentioned until the fourth act, and
That
he's just behind the scenes the whole time. We don't know what he's doing.
Well, yes, we
So I
do.
just-
I've heard two strong Fortinbras arguments
I mean,
this
the only
morning.
thing I could think of is that he's just scheming against him. That's all I can think of.
Okay, but we know he's a foil. What do we know about Fortinbras and flesh out a character there? Because I've heard some pretty strong arguments, and that I'm glad you brought that up, because Horatio technically is absent in Act 2, but that does not mean he's uninvolved.
Because I don't know how to do that.
Well, and that's why it's a
Fortinbras
challenge.
argument there, and it's so confusing.
Well, that's why it's a challenge. You have enough background information to form a conjecture, form a hypothesis. Why were we told this one small element, if not to try to develop a conjecture? Otherwise, why did Shakespeare include the character of Fortinbras to begin with? Does this make sense? So everyone is involved, even if you're absent. Horatio, I want you to talk about that today too. Okay, so let's get in the circle now. Bring your chart. Keeping in mind that 2 are due by the end of class, Acts 1 and 2. I'm collecting at the end of class to make sure everybody's thoroughly understanding. Yeah. I haven't decided yet. I was going to get y'all's feedback on that too. You think a lot? For how many points it's going to be worth? I had a range in mind, kind of depending on what I saw, since this is the first time we've done
But
this.
this helps me remember what
Yeah, I've heard that from a couple of
I don't know,
classes.
because these guys confusing.
It helps you remember the one character though.
Yeah.
It makes me think about all the others too though.
That's what Daisy said. Daisy said, next year I think you should do this for every single title, because when you read looking at your character, it helps you to understand relationships. That's what I was hoping y'all would come to the understanding of. Why?
Because I mean, I just feel like I focus on them, so I get a picture of a little too much.
Yeah, I feel like when I start looking at other characters, I need to jump back to what he's done.
But by comparison, okay, Horatio, obviously, because he's absent here, but what's going on with these people and what's happening in their lives versus Horatio, who is definitely not involved, well, definitely absent from all of that.
It's just anything.
Good.
Did anybody do this while they were reading, or did y'all read it and go back?
I read it and then
I did it
It's so
during.
easier, because I read it and then went back, and it's hard.
Well, I forgot in my paragraph to put, like I mentioned something about how it relates to other characters and other characters relate to her, but I didn't put as much, and then after, whenever I went back and really thought about it, I was like, crap, I should have put this. So I don't know, it makes me really
Well, it
think.
talks about plot progression, so you kind of have to read it all, and then
Yeah.
go back and be
Yeah.
like, this is
You
what
have
happens,
this-
yeah.
You have this beforehand, so just think about what you need to know.
Yeah, it's kind of like how you should attack the multiple choice test.
Yeah.
Like, those are the questions. Go to the questions first.
I just do sections of it while I read.
And it kind of
I
depends for
don't use
each
plot
person.
progression.
But figure out what works for you, right? Okay. All right, so let's get started with these characters.
Starting next week.
Act 2.
Oh.
We did, but you were out that day. I know. What?
I mean, was it yesterday?
No, this was the week before.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Did anybody just start?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the beginning when Ophelia went to her father Polonius and told him that Hamlet was going crazy because of his love for her, so they think, but in Act 1, that's whenever Hamlet talked to the ghost, and I think that Hamlet's really crazy because of the ghost, and
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm confused if Ophelia is,
Really, he's like lover.
or if she's just saying that to be like deceiving, or I don't know.
Hard to get.
Have mixed feelings about Ophelia because of Hamlet and the ghost.
Why would he go crazy because he loves her?
Yeah, it doesn't make
It
sense.
doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, but no one knows that.
Yeah,
Connor,
Two
what do you
people
think?
know that he met the ghost, and he told them not to tell anyone, so they all think he's going crazy because he loves.
Yeah, he's gotta
Right.
apply
So I think he's like
something.
seeing things.
So that's like
Yeah.
why Polonius tells the king and queen that he's going crazy, because they don't know he met his father, the ghost. only Horatio and Marcellus
Yes.
met him?
Right. And every person, as we bring this up, should be thinking, how does that affect my character? How does that affect my character?
My character,
What's my whole character?
my character is the ghost, and he's not even in Act 2, but I think the ghost is the stem of every single conflict
Yeah.
in the book. Without the ghost,
I think
there'd be no story.
Let me tell you what somebody brought up in my second hour. Tori said the way that she would stage the ghost is that he would be ever present. And I said, oh, that's kind of cool. And she said, like, the actors would pretend they couldn't see him, but he would be there. And I said, would he be up on like a balcony? And she said, no, he would
Right
be.
there in his.
She said he would follow Hamlet around. Like that's to reflect that. I know, isn't that weird? She said it would remind her of like how the devil character in The Passion, and she goes, which gave me nightmares. But basically to show that he's constantly thinking about it. It's a constant influence and hovers over Hamlet. So I'll call y'all out. I have heard Polonius, Ophelia, Hamlet, Ghost.
I have Gertrude, evil, and she's just evil in a way. Because, like, she brings his Hamlet's friends in there just to, like, make it look like
Just
she
spy
cares
on
when she really doesn't.
I thought she brought Hamlet's friends in there because she couldn't do it herself. She had to trust Hamlet's friends to like do it for him.
Who are you?
Hamlet, Gertrude Innocent.
Oh.
Because Hamlet blamed her for everything, so she was powerless. Like she had no influence. Like he wouldn't
Well,
listen
I
to
know
what
that,
she had to say.
but she says somewhere in there, like, oh, I know this is because I married your uncle, but it's because, and then she, like, wants it to look like she actually cares about it, but she doesn't. She just wants
She
it
just
like
using
that.
Do you
other
think
people.
all along she wanted Claudius?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think she just wants money. I think she's out for
think-
She just
power.
wants power.
Yeah, I think she's out
Yeah,
for
that's
power.
kind of like what I was saying. I thought she was in it because if she didn't marry Claudius,
No, I-
Hamlet wouldn't have the crown.
I think that Claudius is
Ooh, to
about
protect
to, like, I think his motivation is, from what we read, he obviously cares about Hamlet because he wants to be his father figure. I mean, he doesn't handle it in the best way,
I
but he,
think that
he
comes out
wants
of
him.
his jealousy.
Right, except for that little
I
aside
think-
they throw in there.
I
It's like
think
such a
it-
heavy burden, all this guilt.
yeah.
I think
I'm sorry.
he wanted, like, I
This
think
is
he
hard.
was
No,
really.
this is the
Yeah,
point,
this
though,
is
because
already to
this
have
is
all that
gonna-
crap.
This is gonna change the way that different characters.
I think
I feel like I'm talking evil.
But you can still make this argument and differ with him because I
I
think
don't
it.
agree with myself.
That's, that's okay. Try to come up with an argument. Sometimes it's not about which paper you agree with. Sometimes it's more about which paper you can write with more evidence. I think, if anything, if you are Claudius innocent, you would want him to be evil.
Who? The ghost?
The ghost of
I
Hamlet
think
Sr.
the ghost and Claudius and Gertrude are all evil. I'm thinking of
No, I mean, that's Shakespeare, though.
Well, of course, you would think that I'm evil. You're just jealous because I took your wife and your land.
No! We're gonna see if this is the last line in the end.
From my standpoint,
Okay, who are you?
Horatio.
Okay, good.
Alright, I don't think it was a coincidence, the one act that he's not involved, Hamlet is losing his mind.
Yes.
He's like the voice of reason
Right.
almost for everyone. Like everybody, they kind of come out with like outlandish plans and stuff like that because they're all just kind of thinking, oh, that's good, that's good, that's good. And then everybody's there to be like, but what if this happens? Or like,
Nobody's considering consequences.
yeah, and I think that's definitely not a coincidence. But then the way Hamlet kind of asks all, he asks a lot of questions every now and then, but it was all into it. It just goes kind of like a downpour. Like he never thought. He just asked and then went with whatever was said. He didn't think about the answer.
Okay, this is not cool.
So that's why I still got reading.
What? Like, who are you, Ashton?
I'm Hamlet.
Changes things a little bit.
But the thing is, it's like, I need to go to like reading school or something because I read this and I don't get any of this.
That's okay, that's okay. If you're reading,
Do Spark
good, but don't do Spark Notes.
If I don't understand it, I'm like, okay, what does that mean?
But I don't know that I'm missing this. Like I read Act 1 a second time, and it was only the second time that I realized that his uncle killed.
But that's okay. Listen, I don't want you to do supplementary material like Spark Notes in lieu of the original text, but I do want you to use Spark Notes in addition to the original text if you're struggling with that. So make sure that, but do you see how his mentioning this could help you develop your characterization? So work on that right now.
Wait, I can't decide if oh, I don't know if I just skipped over this or something, but did Gertrude help Claudius kill him? Wait, who's what's Hamlet's dad's name?
Hamlet Senior.
Yeah, okay, did she help? Because I think she might have.
I do too.
But
I think
then,
she never.
but then in that case, then she would want
Says her name
Claudius.
though.
Cause she's just like so happy.
She's just
everything
sketchy.
he
She's a
does.
sketchy
She is
character.
sketchy.
Yeah, she
And
really is
I'm
The
sorry,
ghost
but I really
always
think
stopped
Ophelia's starting it all, and I really think that she's not a good person. I don't
Who's
know what to think
Ophelia?
about her.
Who's Ophelia? It's
Daughter.
Ophelia.
I'm
I think she's
Ophelia.
just dumb.
Oh, you're Ophelia.
Don't talk about yourself.
I
Like.
know, I'm just saying.
Okay.
I don't know about her. First, I was like, oh, she's just young, naive, and confused. But now I'm starting to think that she is. She's stirring it all up.
But where's
But
that
her
coming from?
dad told her to come tell him.
Yeah, and he's getting too involved.
One
too.
daughter actually
I
listens
think
to
she
everything that their dad
You think Ophelia is
The
evil?
daughter, isn't that the one?
Yes.
I think Ophelia is. I'm sorry, she is.
For,
She's
wait,
evil.
now, wait.
They're all evil.
Is she evil for heeding the advice of her dad, or is she, are these her malicious intents?
It's malicious.
I think it's. I think
What are we supposed to
her
put?
dad.
I think she's taking her dad's
Wait,
advice
wait.
as an excuse to
Okay,
do things.
Dee, go ahead.
I have Laertes, and I was reading like the first part of scene 1 and Act 2, and I was like, this guy is kind of manipulative a little bit, because he was messing with my character Laertes. He's all the way in France, and he's ordering his servants to go over there and get them to
What
talk
is
about
somebody
people
is
and
getting
watch him.
those people to do?
He's
Check
getting
up
them
on
to
him.
spy.
Spy.
But how? It's not just, okay, any dad.
He's
will
getting
do
Talk
that.
bad about him and see if it's true.
Oh, but yes.
But isn't that his
Don't talk
way?
too bad.
That's his way of making sure his son's doing the right thing.
But still.
That's over
But
the
That's
top.
so
Like,
crazy,
he's
yeah.
going out of his
Really?
way. Okay,
Really?
but let me ask you this. Dee, how do you think that affects, I mean, if Laertes and Ophelia, this is the only thing they know of a parent. They've grown up with him. How do you think that affects Laertes' characterization?
Well, I guess since he's grown up with that, I guess he's like a little bit more, I assume he would be a little bit more naive if he were to fall for it. Like, he were to just say, okay, yeah, I've been doing this, or I've been doing this, or to just talk to him straight.
Do you think
up.
he's surprised by this element of his dad?
No, not really.
I think
I
he's kind of like
used
you
to
and
it.
I think
Y'all just don't trust anybody.
I know,
I mean,
right?
okay, if
Oh,
you
we
grow
know.
up with a mom,
Boy.
aren't most likely a daughter reflects what she sees from her mom, and a son reflects what he sees from his dad.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm sure he would reflect what he's seeing from
Or
his
you
dad.
could see it
Or
as,
maybe-
I don't want to act like
Act
that.
like
Right,
that.
and
Yeah.
he's gone. He went.
He's
to,
gone. He's
And look
pure
at
of the situation.
when do we ever see a juxtaposition of how different their characterization could be? When are they ever together close enough to where we can see maybe they're different? Go back to Act 1. Right.
Yeah, when they do that.
And who were they talking to?
They're talking to Ophelia.
And we saw how differently they gave advice.
Yeah. He was, okay, I'm concerned about you.
I think
right
here. I don't want you hurt.
Okay.
Chloe was like, don't do this. I forbid you.
No, I think Ophelia is like
Like the dad.
Ophelia.
Why? But
because Polonius is so involved in your face, and he
Yeah.
stirs up business that's not
That
meant for
doesn't
him
have
to be
anything
in.
to do with him.
And I think Ophelia likes to start it and be a little troublemaker.
I think
I think he's
Chloe
just trying to
has-
watch out for his kids though, because that's all he has.
he's well intended.
he's well intended, but
Emma
he's
said
like,
you
to
may not
lock
go
him up in
about
his
it the
house
right way.
and make sure that all of his foolishness isn't get out.
I'm starting to think that maybe like Ophelia and Polonius, Laertes are kind of following from each other because like maybe from their dad he produced two different kinds of kids. Like,
But how could their genders play a role in that? Laertes is going to school. Ophelia is staying home.
oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I
Well,
tell you who I trust is Fortinbras. Fortinbras, I believe everything he says.
He's like, oh, I'm gonna pass through your country peacefully.
But I think, who did he say that to? So what do you think about
What is
Fortinbras?
Fortinbras? Like, what is he doing?
I don't trust him. I mean, I guess
He's
he's smart, but I don't trust
Come on,
him.
John, I need you. I don't know who Fortinbras
I'm so
is.
confused.
Why, John? Why are
I
you
just,
confused?
I don't know.
He's in like an action.
John,
I'm one of those people that has to see someone doing something. I can't just like,
okay, so what did
I
you
can't
do?
work with someone that's like all the way in
Well,
behind the
he's
scenes
one of
trying to
those
figure all this stuff out, manipulating
Horatio is not in the
Claudius and
scene.
Polonius and.
Not there.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we-
But
Give him that what you just said. Give him that element and let's see what we make of it.
He is mentioned in the first act, so by the way that they mention, you
Is he
can
mentioned
form
in
a
the first
character.
act? I must have read right past it.
You know,
Okay.